Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's well out there. Just walked in the door. Happy to be with you. And I am thrilled to talk about tonight. I'm going to be talking about my newest group that I have run for. It was a simple one shot. It was really not even a total adventure. It was more of an encounter, which I find to be perfect for working with middle school students because, well, that's really all the time they have, a lot of them, because it's an after-school program. I run this for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And so when you're running an encounter, it's helpful in that sense because you only have a certain amount of time and because kids are leaving, at various stages, right? Since it's after school, it's whenever parents come and pick them up. But I had a great time, and I'm going to jump into that tonight, talk about Castles and Crusades. We'll talk about some of the really smart things that these kids did, and we'll get into it. But if you're brand new here to the channel, never been to the channel before, my name is Paul, a.k.a. Flint Fireforge, and if you like channels and videos about DM advice, running games for teenagers, or reviews or things like that, well, this might be a channel for you, so be sure to go and click the subscribe button. Links to all the things will be down in the doobly-doo down there. Links to Castles of Crusades if you've never played it before. I'd love to hear about if you've never played it before, leave me a comment. If you have played it before, leave me a comment. And so we'll get into it tonight and talk about the experience. So I played... was it yesterday? I think we played a total of an hour, and which is fine, hour and 15 maybe, which is really a good amount of time for running an encounter. And I took from, let's see, the adventure I used. Let me see here if I can find it. Let's see. Let's see, it's here somewhere. Let's see. It is from the Castles and Crusades. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's Quick Threats. All right. Maybe I don't have it on this computer. I may have it somewhere else. Let's see here. Oh, I know where it is. I don't think I have it. Well, I can show you the cover, I guess. Let me see. P. Nope, for whatever reason, not there. But that's okay. I will show you the fact that what I used for the encounters, and this is a great little resource here. It's called Quick Threats and Sidetracks from Castles and Crusades. By Davis Chenault. And the particular adventure I was using, let's see, the one I was using was, let's see, I think I did it a little bit different than what it was written, as one should. You want to be able to, let's see, it's the Horde. Ah, there it is. So this particular one, number 7, is the Horde. And in this particular adventure, it is really a tale of two towns. One of the towns is secure to some degree, and the other town is filled with the dead. And it's based on the fact that there's a necromancer in the other town who is mad at the village across the way and will soon be invading it. So there's a lot of good stuff there, but because of, like I said, time, I went ahead and just kind of truncated it a little bit. And to where if you look at my setup here, let me just show you the setup. So this is my setup here. You can see I have, for Castles of Crusades, if you don't know, 12 is kind of your base based on what your strengths are. So if you are proficient in, let's say, strength, most of your rolls are going to be 12, somewhere around there, a little bit higher, a little bit lower maybe. If you are not proficient, let's say, in strength, if that's not one of your primary primary abilities, then you will have to roll an 18, give or take a couple. These cards here, by the way, I got from, these are from Runehammer's, his game for, oh, shoot. I can't remember. I can't remember his game. I know it. It's on the top of my head. Anyway, but they are from Runehammer, and these cards are really sharp because then I can show them exactly what the numbers they're shooting for. This is their little dice bags here. I give them their dice bags, and then I go over with them the what's in the bags. Of course, I got pencils, and in the bag there's stickers, there's dice, all of the things, and yes. Mr. Sherman, I did in fact use your dice. I'm going to give those away in January. I'm getting them used to them, getting them warmed up, and we'll likely give them away. So Matthew, thank you for your donation. They will be used. And here is the setup here. This is the village that I set up. And these are the cards here, and I'll explain these cards here in just a second. The way I did them, because I wound up just kind of cutting off the top for good reason. So, anyway, this is the village that they walked into, and the village. I placed it rather than having if there was one thing that did not happen very much in this game or this session was role play, because they walked into town almost dusk and everything was boarded up, like they were trying to protect themselves because the dead were already there. In fact, the encounters they had were with skeletons, basic things that they were going to face. And they had these were 3 young men. I just did men for this game, and I'm going to do for the girls the following week, next week. And so these 3 guys had to figure out how to work together. They did initially split the party. One guy went one way and 2 went the other, and so that did not wind up the turnout biting him in the butt. But they managed very well. They came up with some really good ideas. One young man, instead of actually hitting, he wanted to use his spells, and the spells that I used, I kept it really super simple. I just wrote them down on cards for him, because he doesn't need to know, playing a wizard, he didn't need to know all the particulars. He just needed to know what he could do. And that's part of the simplicity that I think is important, is making it streamlined, making it simple for middle school students to be able to understand. Because you have a limited time. I don't want them digging into the rules. I want them to experience the game, right? That's what I want. I'm not, there's learning how to play D&D. And there's playing D&D. So we didn't focus, I focused on the very bare minimums of what they needed to know so they could jump into the game quickly. And part of that is just having, discover undead. This is cleric cards, by the way, not wizard cards, but so you can discover undead within 60 feet, right? So keeping the descriptions very simple so they don't have to dig through it to find out what they can do. I want to keep that just super simple for them so they can be able to see it. And good evening. Crown and Skull. Yes, thank you. Those are where those are from. Thank you, the K5K. And welcome, Death Angel Shadow. Hail to you, sir. So, and as I was saying, this young man, who his name was Zimzam, I think he called him the Super Zimzam. I think he wants, middle school students will look at what their other friends name their characters and will tend to emulate that. So somebody named I think he named his character Super Dan. So he wanted to add super to his name because his friend added super to his name. So Super Zimzam. Super Zimzam the wizard, Super Dan the rogue, and then we had the fighter. What was his name? Cannot remember. But anyway, a fighter, a rogue, and a wizard. And so this young man who played the wizard, and he wanted to get into his spells fast, man. He says, like, I want to cast a spell. Great. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do dancing lights. So I said, what are you going to do with that? He says, well, I want to distract the skeleton, and then I want to tie him up. So traditionally we'd say hit it with an axe, right? Obviously, the wizard does not have an axe. In fact, I think the wizard took a spear, in fact. Which, okay, you can have a spear. Nothing wrong with that. And so he had a spear, but he said, well, I want to use this. So I said, okay, roll for it. He rolled for it and got it. And so he ties up the skeleton, drags the skeleton with him. I thought this was going a different direction, but he drags the skeleton with him and over to, this is where they split the party. And then I was bringing the skeleton back with him. He's just dragging this skeleton around with him and ties him up. He can't do anything. And so he brings him to his friends who are fighting two other skeletons on the other side behind one of the houses there. And he winds up just dispatching this skeleton. He just wants to take he says, I want to take my pan. I gave him a little card that has your supplies in it. He says, well, I want to take my pan, my frying pan out, and I want to bash the skeleton in the skull. I went, great, roll for that. The wizard, I'm just telling you, the wizard was just crushing. His numbers were pretty good. He did not miss very much in this encounter that we were having. On the other hand, the rogue had minimal success. I'll say he had 50-50 success, because he literally rolled 4 1s in a row. I kid you not. 4 1s. I mean, all kinds of things were happening to him. This poor guy was just falling down. Things happen on a 1, right? So you're falling down. You're doing all those things. So anyway, they finally got rid of the 3 skeletons that they were fighting. And there was lots of communication amongst themselves. So they were role-playing in that sense. They were role-playing with each other, but they were not necessarily, they didn't have any other NPCs with which to deal with, because they are all boarded up in their houses. So during the fight, though, I did wind up saying that there is a face in the window, and the window is just saying, help me, and winds up getting dragged away out of the window. And they were a little concerned about that. They didn't really know what to do about that, but they decided they were going to go into the house. Now, I'll show you the picture of what, yes, standing is hard. It is. So, and there was lots of things. When they rolled 1s, they were doing, I'll show you what they were doing. They got into the house. Here's what they saw. So they had, in the house, they had these 2 tables that are here. They had a couple. And unbeknownst to me, I had laid out a token of a dog, a wolf dog here. And there's 2 skeletons. There's a family that's cowering in the corner with their dog. And then the party enters and kicking down the doors. So they immediately got the idea of kicking down doors, which I think is phenomenal. Now, there was a 1 outside that the rogue wound up rolling. But when he got in here, they wanted to get fancy, which I didn't mind. I thought they did a great job. And what they wound up doing is, come over here. What they wound up doing is they would like to jump on tables. So the rogue jumps on the table, says, I'm going to jump, and I'm going to jump on top of the skeleton. Great. Rolled a 1, slipped, put his foot into a bowl of porridge. He had grabbed a pot off of here and was going to put it on top of the head of the skeleton. I said, it's a great idea. Except when he rolled the 1, he slipped, and the pot wound up getting on top of his head and getting it stuck. So, because that's what happens on a 1. And so he winds up, getting a stick on his head. The wizard comes over to help him. I said, do a strength check. Does not do it. Is trying to pull it off. Then you have your fighter also doing trickery. Jumps on this table. Slips in. It fails his roll. Puts his foot in into the I don't know. Put it into the mashed potatoes or the or whatever it was being served here. Slips. And then the skeleton comes over, and now he's laying down, trying to push the skeleton off him. Skeleton's trying to get on the table, trying to murder him, and eventually things get sort of sorted out. And who was it? I think it was the fighter came up with a good idea. He says, "I'm going to take the meat. Is there any meat on the table?" I said, "Yes, there's meat on the table. I'm going to take it. I'm going to throw it at the skeleton." And this is where I realized that I did not realize that I had put a dog, as a pet for this couple who were in the corner, who were being guarded by this skeleton. So he comes up with a great idea. He throws it in the face of the skeleton, and the dog sees it. I rolled for the reaction of the dog, and the dog jumped at the meat and grabbed onto the bones of the skeleton, which I thought was a great play. I give them a hero point for that. And they use their hero points, by the way. Lots of re-rolling. So they were sharing them. They totally got the idea after that. They were, that initial part where you're trying to teach young people to play, you have to wait until they do it repetitively, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then they go, oh, roll a 20, do the damage with my, this dice. And then eventually after, 5, 6 turns, they figure it out and they got it, right? And yes, or meat. Well, there was meat. There was meat there. They did that. So, and then, so eventually what happened, that the kids had to go home. Eventually, we lost one of the young people. Lost, I say, as if he had passed away. We lost him in the sense that his mother came to pick him up. He was able to make his last little thing, killed one of the skeletons. They released the hostages there, and then they were going to get the story about what had happened. Now, this is all, fairly random, fairly put together because, I took the scenario and, whittled it down to its very basic core elements. There was a little bit more to it, but I just drilled it down to where they could get right into the action. So let me go ahead and jump back to, let's see here. We'll get rid of this, and we'll get back to here. All right. Okay. So a little bit about my setup. When I did these cards, this was and I found this, I found a simplified, I always like to find the most simplified character sheet I can find for the system I'm running. Whether it's 5e, whether it's, Castles of Crusades, whether it's Tiny Dungeons, whatever it is. And Tiny Dungeons is pretty simple already, so I didn't really need one for that. But for this, I took the cards, and this is basically half the character sheet, because really, in reality, this is all I needed them to know. Anything more than this, it's a distraction for me. It's like, okay, you don't need to look at the rest of the page because you don't need to know all this other stuff. For this learning moment, this encounter, there's the only things you need to know. What is your weapon or your spells, and what are your stats? And this is all I needed to give them. Nothing on the back. They can take notes on the back. But I find that the least amount of information they need to have, where I could point out things like their hit points, or things like, what do they get bonus to hit, or how many feet they can move, or what their armor class is. So I found that, that to be the simplest and easiest way, because I don't want to have a bunch of stuff that they need to look at that they don't need to be concerned with, right? This is all here, what they need to see and what they need to take in. Anything above that, once again, like I said, is a distraction. We don't need them focusing on more equipment, or that's why I have these little cards, and I don't think I have one with me, but I just have these little cards that it's like a great little picture card I got off of Etsy that has a pack that has all the things, right? Yes, I did. In fact, I did look at those, and I and it was fine, but I felt like this Death Angel was less than that. If I was doing it, and I don't know why, I looked at the sheets, and I don't know what I saw in them or whatever that I said, well, I don't know if I like that or not. And I think there were only 4 of them, and I wanted to have more than 4 character sheets, I think. So in making these, and I rolled these up myself, and created the pre-gens by myself. And I thought they were fine. That if I was running a normal game, like if I was at a game store and I know we're playing for 2.5 hours, probably we'll use that if I know I have a group of 4 people, right? In this scenario, like I said, dealing with the after school program and dealing with middle school students, I liked the starter ones. They were fine. But once again, I felt they had too much information for the scenario. It took up too much table space, right? Because all I want them to see is this card and their dice. And then I even had little pictures of their weapons, because a kid, a middle school student does not necessarily know what a mace is, or a flail, or a morning star. So I have pictures of those things and the damage they do, 1d6, 1d8, 1d10, or whatever it is, so that they know then what dice they're supposed to use. And once again, trying to streamline that, because I can always add, right, another session, and I can add another piece of the mechanics or whatever it may be. But to learn the very basics of it, I find that, once again, simplicity is best. Don't give them too much to look at. Don't give them too much to play with. Don't take up too much of table space. Sometimes I even think, because the tables we were playing at, limited space. So even to me, a full sheet covers up something. It's covering up, part of the table, part of the, the map or something like that. Because we're dealing with basically just a normal 6-foot table, 6x2, I think, something like that. And so I wanted, like I said, a limited amount of paper, a limited amount of whatever I need, so they can focus on the very thing they need to focus on. So overall, good experience. Lots of fun. This particular club that I ran at, that's under, it's kind of in my portfolio that I go by. I visit these various clubs, and I run programs like this. Amongst other things, I teach healthy habits. We teach, career advice. All kinds of things we do in the Boys and Girls Club. There's lots of things that we try to do to equip students to get ready for, their journey. So lots of programs. In this case, and I recorded, by the way, this adventure as well, and I will be putting up in the members area. So if you're a member, you will get to hear not only my last session with the other group I had, but you will hear this encounter of what these students did as well. So I am stoked for this. Listen, these are the nicest kids, by the way. This particular club, I'm going to say, has the nicest, politest middle school students maybe I've ever met, because they greeted me when I walked in, and I hadn't seen them in probably 2 weeks, maybe a month. They said, "Hey, Mr. Paul," like they remembered my name. That was pretty awesome. I mean, then you had kids like shaking my hand. "Thank you for coming, Paul. Thank you for coming, Mr. Paul. Thank you for playing this with us, Mr. Paul." I'm like, whoa, this is like, whoo, couldn't ask for anything better. So next Friday, I will be running the girls through a group. And I will tell you this, at the end of the guys session, I asked them, I said, one of the questions I asked, and I only really got to ask one question among them. I would normally ask a few others. But this one, I asked them, I said, well, how do you think your teamwork was? Do you think you worked well together? And most of them agreed that they worked well together. And I said, and I asked him, I said, if you were alone in this situation, do you think you would have been able to handle it? And most of them said no. I said, well, that's the point. The takeaway for real life is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask people to help you with these challenges. And a team is better than going solo many times. So if the lesson is basically, hey, teamwork makes the dream work, then yeah, that was the lesson to be had. And once again, it's very quick in this moment because, like I said, my time is limited. And this group might need shorter encounters. My group that I did before, I think we ran about the same, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Hour to 15, hour and a half is like the max for after school because time moves fast. If I get there at 3:30, if we start playing at 3:30, I really only have till 5 by the time people start leaving. And some leaving before that. But I had one of the kids, his mother showed up and says, and his sister was like, come on, you got to go. And he's like, tell Mom I'll be there in a second. Like, the kid didn't want to leave, but he's got to go home, which is where he should be. But the fact that he wanted to stay, the fact that he wanted to finish what he was doing, the fact that he was so interested in what was happening, was a good sign, Yes, good. Teach them to not do all the stuff I do. That's right. Hey, welcome in, Mr. Death Angel Shadow, to the membership place. I was a den leader when my kid was, still a kid. Well, then these they can be squirrely bunch they can be. And so once again, Tiny Dungeons with the other place, Castles and Crusades. And if you're interested, if you've never played it, it's a good system. I like the primary and the secondary because that gives everybody a chance to be good at what they're good at. And everybody else, listen, if you're good at it, you're good at it. If you're not good at it, then you're not good at it. So, and I think that's a good mechanic to help everybody have their moment to shine. You don't want clerics picking locks, really. They could try. It's not that they can't try. It's like, but you're going to do it at a you're not going to get it at a 12. You're going to have to do it at 18 or above, unless you give me some reason why. If your background is in thievery, maybe, right? No, you can't throw rocks at each other. Well, for the most part. And not at the cars either. Yes. Which brings me a quick, I was living in Florida and I was a kid and I was going to a club meeting at a church, and a bunch of us guys wound up skipping the club or purposely being late. And we ran into the orange groves that are across from the church, and we threw grapefruits at cars as they drove by. And cars that would pull over and try to get us, we would run through the orchard, run through the orchards there, and fall in ditches and get muddy. And there was this one kid who's a little bit big, and he had a tough time. And so we wound up going after the first car stopped because they didn't like us throwing grapefruits at their cars. We wound up managing going through the grove and getting back to the church, and a little bit muddy. So, yeah. So don't throw, not at the cars either, but grapefruits, maybe. Anyway, don't throw them at the car. Don't throw kids. If you're watching this, don't throw grapefruits at cars. Okay. Hey, I grew up in Florida. I was in the boys club as a volunteer when I was a teen, too young to get a paying job. Well, good for you, sir. That's back when there was just a boys club. That's right, because they added the girls later on. So yes, Florida, quite the place. So and one little bit of, I don't know if there's anything else here. Other than I got this is the newest version, by the way, of the Player's Handbook. Reforged. And then that's Castles and Crusades Reforged. And then I finally got my Easy D6, which is another system I'm looking at running. Finally got that printed off at my local printer. So excited about maybe using that. But right now, Castles and Crusades is what I'm using to teach at this particular club. I thought it was effective. I thought I've run Castles and Crusades one time before, so I'm familiar with the D20 system and all the siege engine and all that stuff, and it worked out pretty well. So I'm gonna use it again, and then in the new year, in January, I'm hopefully going to be over there. I'm going to run a 3-week adventure. I'll run an encounter that'll go 3 weeks, and then we'll do the same thing I did, where I'll do certificates, I'll buy pizza for them, and we will have a celebratory time. We'll have the Heroes Feast, as I call it. New PHB coming, different cover. That's right. But if anybody has any questions, by the way, if you're watching this in the future, you're welcome to leave your comments down below. If you are in chat with me, of course, you are welcome to ask a question as well, whether it is about just DM advice, encounters, Castles and Crusades. If you got them, I'm happy to chat for a moment. But other than that, I think it was an effective session. Once again, we're trying to whet the appetite of these young people for role playing. And like I said, one was super excited. The other two had no idea kind of what this was. I think somebody asked him if it was a video game or asked him if it was something else. And I think one of them thought it was kind of like a video game. And I said, well, kind of. If you took the video game out of the screen and put it on a table, then yeah, kind of like that. So once again, if you're just trying to get students involved and you don't have to run it a long time. You don't have to do. That's my advice to you for those that are seeking to, run games for new people. And I'm talking about adults as well. You don't need a 3-hour session to teach a role-playing game. 90 minutes is fine. If just run an encounter like this, like I said, they were coming into a town that was all boarded up. They had no idea what was going on. And I just kind of followed their lead to see what they were going to do. That was the scenario. That's what I took out of the adventure, the quick threads and side treks. I just got abandoned. That's in my head. I was like, town, locked up, boarded up. The undead are just running rampant. So that's, you don't need a full-blown adventure to teach. You don't need a ton of stuff at the table. Streamlining it, keeping it super basic, learn the basics of just, let them kind of develop their character a little bit, and see what happens, right? Just get them used to the basics. Another good update. Sounds like they started to get it. They did. They're anxious to play again. So I'm excited for them when we play it back in January. January when I run it. A lot of video games were inspired by D&D and tabletop. Absolutely. That's where you get hit points, right? They took out of the vernacular of role playing. You got a lot of those. You got a lot of those. The things that video games took came from RPGs. So, that's a lot of guys who worked and developed video games played role playing games. Those guys were in it. So when they were developing these things, of course, the language to them made sense, right? This is a health bar, but we know that's hit points, right? There's initiative, or there's, whatever it may be, right? These terminologies that, that would be used within the video games. They had probably a lot of them had a background, and that's the same true for a lot of people in entertainment, whether it's video games or animation or, a lot of those things. Not all of them, but quite a few in the entertainment business, right? But yeah, overall, another good report. Next Friday, I think I'll be on here, hopefully Friday, if not Friday, Saturday, next Saturday, depending when I get home. we'll have another update, and I'll tell you how the young ladies did. I'd be anxious. You know, I told you before about the 8th graders and the 6th graders, a little bit about what's different about them. Now, if I play with all the girls, we'll see what they're like. All the boys were fairly good. They worked together. Not a lot of cantankerousness or anything like that. They had some disagreements, but they worked those out and wound up working pretty effectively for what they wanted to do. But they all wanted to have their little moment of sunshine, and they got it, and overall did a good job. So, but that's it for tonight, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to if you're watching this, you're not a subscriber yet, go and click the subscribe button. And all the links to Castle Crusades, quick threats, and side threats. The reason why I like this so much is because they are one page. It's really all you need. You don't need a giant book, right? All you need is one page adventure, and you don't even need that. I didn't use 3/4 of what that was. I used the idea, and then let it play out, and let the players kind of decide. So very sandboxy, right? Which I'm a fan of. So, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll catch you guys next week. Hopefully I'll get some videos out here. Hopefully I'll have some time at some point to actually make a video. It might be on about Tiny Dungeons and just kind of a review of the system. It may be, I got a few other things in the hopper that may be a good idea, so we'll see. Hopefully I will we'll get on that. But other than that, gentlemen, and any ladies that may be watching, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys real soon. Talk to you later. Bye.